You are listening to Mining Stock Education, where you'll learn from the top leaders in the natural resource sector and uncover quality mining investment opportunities.
In today's show, you're going to be hearing from the Prospectors and Developers Association of Canada President, Felix Lee. This is a conference that I have been attending since 2017 when about a year after I first got really interested in mining stock investing. And it's one of my favorite conferences, the biggest worldwide mining conference, but this year it has gone virtual. There's a link in the show notes to learn more. You're also going to be hearing from Felix today as to why you might consider attending. And it's been a great opportunity for me in past years to really meet fellow investors, meet management, meet people in the industry. You just get a really good sense and vibe of how well the industry is or isn't doing if it's a bear market. And so it's one of my favorite conferences. So Felix, thanks for coming on the show today to tell us about it.
Well, thank you for having me.
All right, first question. We've experienced a lot of changes in the last year since the last PDAC. That, in fact, was the last in-person conference that I went to, because after that, all the conferences in the mining sector that I usually attend went to virtual. What are some of the changes that you see happening due to the COVID pandemic in the last year affecting the mining sector that are going to remain and are for our good?
Really good question. So, you just mentioned that the last PDAC convention was in person, and then shortly after that, all of us got hit, rather quickly with COVID-19 and the various travel restrictions, etc. That we eventually have to deal with and are still dealing with. That's something that as an industry we continue to try and work around. When we were hit with the travel restrictions, many of our member companies had to really respond. But trying really to see what could be done to continue with exploration programs, continue with the development of their projects. The travel restrictions meant that it was very difficult to access projects. It was very difficult to access mine sites to continue work. And there was always, of course, the concern about the possibility of spreading COVID-19 to areas which were not really equipped to handle an outbreak. But as an industry, we're used to working in remote areas. We're used to working typically in areas that do not have the infrastructure or the logistical support that we otherwise take for granted, in the big city. And so our industry, quite rapidly adapted. And in fact, many of our member companies were quite instrumental in helping sort of remote communities, northern communities, the communities in which many of our members work, with dealing with COVID-19. Just to give you an anecdote, the company that I run, Wilson Metals, we work in northern Manitoba, and we became very aware quite quickly that the community up in northern Manitoba were having a great deal of trouble sourcing supplies, supplies such as baby diapers and baby formula. And we worked with a group here in Toronto to actually help them source those supplies. And I've heard many other mineral exploration companies getting involved with doing that. So, as an industry that's used to working in places where logistical support is few and far between, we actually did play a role in helping some of the remote communities actually overcome and adapt to COVID-19.
What are some of the greatest opportunities that you see for advancement within the mining sector this year?
Really good question. So, as we continue to deal with COVID-19 and the pandemic, obviously the rollout of the vaccines that we're now seeing, I think, presents the opportunity for us as an industry, as well as for other industry sectors, to return to some kind of normalcy. We'll just have to see how that goes. If we can return to some kind of normalcy, certainly the ability to access project sites, the ability to engage with northern communities, indigenous communities, etc. That sort of thing becomes a lot easier. So really kind of, for me personally, what I think is the big opportunity is the promise of what the vaccines might hold for our industry sector. Certainly with the uncertainty as a result of the pandemic, we've seen some metal prices, particularly in precious metal prices, reach all-time highs, as well as we've seen the price of copper in particular also reach a high. So, if there's a chance for us as an industry to kind of resume or get back to, the business of exploring for minerals and metals and mining them, the high metal prices certainly, I think, bodes well for our industry.
Last year, a huge risk and monkey wrench that was thrown at the industry was COVID, as we've discussed. Nobody could have foresaw that, I don't think. But with the risk that you can project, possible known risks, what do you see as a known risk that could greatly impact the mining sector this year?
Well, without kind of sounding like a broken record and constantly talking about COVID-19, I think probably, the biggest risk is the resurgence of COVID-19. And we're seeing that right now. How we as an industry adapt to that. Again, it is presenting problems. The ability to access sites, the ability to engage with local communities, and of course, as I mentioned earlier, the concern with spreading, inadvertently spreading COVID-19 to those areas which are ill-equipped to handle an outbreak. So these continue to be concerns, and obviously the resurgence of COVID-19, the appearance of COVID-19 variants, is a big concern, and is something that's kind of hanging over our industry as well as other industry sectors, to be honest with you.
Felix, you're speaking mostly to private investors, listeners of this show. So from the investment perspective, where might be some good opportunities, whether it's geographic or a commodity or a type of investment equity that you might point out to my audience, please?
That's a crystal ball I really wish I had. I think it's safe to say that all it takes is a discovery to spark the imagination of investors and see a particular project, a particular company's stock price, a particular commodity just take off. I think the best way really to kind of unearth a hidden opportunity or what's coming up next really is to just kind of do your research as an investor, research the companies, research the various plays that are out there, research the geographical opportunities, as well as just keep your eye on what people are saying with respect to commodity outlook. With that said, one of the best ways to do that, to kind of keep your finger on the pulse of the industry and where things appear to be emerging plays or emerging commodities, really is to attend an event such as PDAC 2021.
All right. And let's talk about that. Why would they want to attend? It's virtual this year. And I have to confess, I am disappointed it's not in person. I understand why it can't be, but it's, my first impression is, it's not going to live up to what it was in person because it's so great. So what's your appeal to me and my listeners to come?
Well, Bill, you started off in your introduction talking about your first exposure to the PDAC Convention, and the convention as being a great place to meet people, to network, to find out what the industry is doing, to get a sense of how well the industry is doing or not doing, as you said. And PDAC 2021, even though we're going virtual, is not going to be any different. So pretty much everything that you've come to know for the PDAC convention will be replicated in the virtual environment. So there'll be a chance to meet people, to network, to listen in or attend fantastic presentations on capital markets, sustainability, indigenous issues, and just meet companies that are out there doing the exploration and looking for things. So it's all going to be there. Nothing's really changed, and as I'm very fond of saying. I first attended the PDAC convention back in the 1980s, so I go a little further back than you do. But the history of the convention has been quite extraordinary. It started off as a very small event in the King Edward Hotel in Toronto back in 1932. And it kind of grew. It outgrew the King Edward Hotel, so it moved to the Royal York Hotel. And then it outgrew the Royal York Hotel, and in the 90s moved to the Metro Toronto Convention Centre. And initially, when that move took place, the event took up half of the north building at the Convention Centre, and then eventually expanded to take up the entire north building. And then we outgrew the north building, moved to the south building. And eventually now we've essentially taken over the entire convention center. So I view the shift to the virtual space really as just the next step in the evolution of the PDAC convention. And what we're creating, or what's been created for PDAC 2021, I think it's safe to say will be a fixture for all future PDAC conventions. There will continue to be a virtual component going forward. So, it's exciting. It's the next step in the evolution of this event. We're all excited about it within PDAC. I hope all of the attendees really are excited, as excited as we are as well. And you're seeing basically history in the making.
One of my favorite things about the convention was walking the exhibition hall and talking to all of the companies and just feeling the buzz. So in a virtual environment, because you're talking more to retail investors with my audience, will they be able to go in a virtual exhibition hall and basically wait in line to talk to management? How does that work?
There will be a virtual exhibition hall. There will be basically the virtual trade show, the virtual investors exchange. One of the as the PDAC convention grew, one of the complaints I always would hear is that the event is too big. It's really hard to find people, when the event is spread out across the entire expanse of the Metro Toronto Convention Centre, it really is kind of hard to meet people. You're kind of running around all the time. You spend more time walking around than you actually do meeting and talking with people. What the virtual event or the virtual format does allow us to do is you can meet with people instantaneously. If there are individuals that you've scheduled a meeting with, you can meet them instantly, and then you go from one meeting straight to the next. In addition, the virtual format allows us to matchmake.
Based on interest?
Yeah, so based on interest, based on people that perhaps you're looking to meet, you will automatically be presented with suggestions as to people who share the same interests, or people that you should talk to based on what you're looking for. You're looking to find out more about projects in Africa, and you will be introduced to individuals that are working in Africa, exploring in Africa, and so on. So in some ways, the virtual format makes it easier to meet people than the in-person event.
Okay. No, that's a great clarification. Thank you for that. You've been listening to the PDAC president, Felix Lee. I encourage you to click on the link below. Go check out what the conference has to offer. You can see it in writing in more detail by clicking on the link. Felix, thanks for coming on the show today and providing an overview.
Thank you, Bill. Thanks for having me.